So Creative Media's Mining Weekly Online is talking to Navin Singh, the Director of Mining Hub, CSIR, and Alastair Macfarlane, the Director of Mining Hub, Chamber of Mines, and Dr. Paul Jourdan, the CEO and Project Manager of MEMSA, which is the manufacturing arm.
This is an initiative that's a public-private partnership where government and industry are jointly working towards revitalizing R&D in South Africa to create technologies that will ensure sustainability of mining, but also at the same time create a manufacturing capability for narrow reef tabular equipment to be used in our South African mines to start, then looking at exploring into Africa and then capturing the rest of the world.
If we're going to modernize, we need to develop the local supply chain. That was the biggest outcome of the Pikisa. And to do that, you need to invest in technology development. So we would like South African companies to be producing cost-effective quality equipment across the range that's needed. That's the long-term vision. Basically, we don't want just to lose jobs on mines through mechanization. We want to create them then in the supply chain.
The Chamber is committed to processes of open innovation on making sites available at mines for MEMSA, and so it's a truly joint effort that we're involved with here.
Where is the money coming from for all this?
So the money is directed initially through the DST, Department of Science and Technology, for a 4-year period. We started off last year. We're at the end of our first cycle. The Chamber of Mines is matching that on a 2-to-1 ratio. So for 2 rand of government, there's 1 rand of industry. It's an outcome of the Pikisa process where we've realized that modernization is required for us to move forward. If we continue to do things as we are, we face a significant challenge where our mines will not be sustainable beyond 2025, 2030. So we have to do things differently, we have to do things smarter. We look at optimization tweaks in the way we're doing things, modernization through mechanization, and also continuous mining, so we don't have a break in the mining system. Based on the plans that we put through at the Pikisa process, which is the SAMEDI strategy, which stands for South African Mining Extraction, Research, Development and Innovation. It's the first time in South Africa that we actually have a consolidated R&D strategy for extraction on its own. And based on those plans and the outcomes of the Pikisa, that's where we got the quantum of funding from the DST and the Chamber's buy-in into that process. We've got 240 million in total over a 4-year period is what we have, with the Chamber money coming in addition to that. On average, it works out about 100 million rand per year over the 4-year period once you add in the Chamber factor.
The DTI on the supply chain development has funded a Pikisa project manager and funded an engineer to try and develop a purchasing database of what the market is for different bits of capital equipment, spares, consumables, etc. In addition, the DTI has also funded the industrial clustering of MEMSA under the cluster development program, getting all the companies to work together. As we do the technology development, we'll be also looking at manufacturing. The development work will be done here and at the participating institutions, research institutions. However, at some point, prototyping will take place at the factories.
We really start with identifying industry needs and then from the industry itself, and then bring those needs through to the research component to say how do we satisfy those needs, and then from the research side take it through, like Paul says, through prototypes where it involves equipment, and then assist with taking it right the way through to commercialization and taking it back to industry.
We have 3 streams of work that's focusing on the current projects, and we have 3 cross-cutting initiatives. So the quick wins right now is those operations that have a short life of mines based on the current commodity prices, increasing costs, etc. The focus in there is how we can look at system tweaks that can allow for maximum gain in those operations. So that's our focus right now. That talks very clearly to job preservations. You have seen in many of the newspaper articles of companies closing down, mining companies, or Section 189s being served. And that's where we want to see that as our first opportunity in it. And it's small tweaks. It's not a significant capital investment in those mines, and we've seen that as our first major quick win. The 3 to 5 year window is looking at how do we go to mechanization and beyond 4 kilometers as we go deeper. Everyone knows how challenging our mines are currently. You can only imagine how much more challenging it'll be later on. So we want to look at gold and platinum in particular, because that's where the burning platform is right now. So that's a 3 to 5 year window. We will start looking at a longer term picture where we can mine only the metal, all the time. So that's some non-explosive method that we want to use that will remove all the dilution that we currently face with that makes our mine so challenging in terms of the economics. So that's the longer term vision of what we want to do. The cross-cutting initiatives, which are also quick wins, is how does one see ahead of the rock? So it's no longer a guessing game. We can understand where the reef is. We can understand where the structures that are often associated with issues in terms of health and safety. If we understand those things, we can bring it forward into our planning, be more proactive rather than reactive in our response. We call that advanced ore body knowledge, and that's where the focus is. The second cross-cutting one is about real-time information. How do we communicate to the people who need to make decisions instantaneously or immediately, so that we don't have to wait a couple of hours to respond to a dangerous situation or a challenge in terms of the productivity. And the third most critical one in terms of the cross-cutting is about the people issue. We call it successful applications of technology. It's a two-pronged approach. How do we deal with the change management of technologies, learning from our past mistakes so we overcome them in the new round, but also understanding the system requirements for people working with technologies in the mining environment, whether it be the workforce, whether it be management, the people surrounding the mines. So we're looking at it very holistically in that approach.
What's the vision for the equipment playing a role to extend the life of our mines and at the same time be people-centered?
Well, the first and obvious is to move people out of harm's way, which is the first couple of meters from the face. We'd rather kill machines than kill our people. Ultimately, in the long term, we dream about people controlling from surface.
We've got to find solutions that can improve the bottom line right now, because, as Navin said, we've had 70-odd thousand retrenchments already in the last few years, and we've got to turn the tide on that.
Any mine has a resource to grade curve, and if you can lower the costs through mechanization, you can mine more resources.
Could we have new mines? Is it a situation where we could say, wow, we can open up new vistas, new horizons if we get this right? And what do we have to get right?
Well, absolutely. So one of the things is it may not necessarily mean sinking a new shaft to open up a new mine. We have enough infrastructure that exists already, but we shut those operations down as mines became more uneconomical. If we have this level of technology that we can start implementing, we can open up those new mines. We can open up 8 gold or platinum mines without sinking a shaft, because we're only extracting, those portions of reef that we walked away from. They were sitting at 4 or 5 grams a ton with a cutoff grade of 10 grams a ton. Now, as I said, when you're only taking out the metal and all the metal all the time, it means you leave all that dilution underground. You're taking out what you want. You're sending that to surface. You are reducing your costs in terms of cooling, because you now have machines working in those spaces. You're working in very narrow seams. You're talking about 20 centimeters or maybe a maximum of 50 centimeters. And according to legislation, you won't be allowed to have people in that, but we can have the equipment working in. You can start targeting areas that were left behind because of stability issues, remnants that were created. So once again, we open up, we create new mining opportunities without necessarily sinking new shafts.
In the longer term, obviously, if we can crack deeper mining, you're aware that on the Wit system, they are down-faulted, high grade, but they're too deep. So once we've moved to the phase 1, as Navin has spoken about, using current infrastructure, then exciting possibilities for getting into the Potch Gap and getting into the Bothaville Gap may surface.
You're coming with new equipment. What about the skills required for that new equipment? What is the planning involved to get people skilled up?
We're working with the Mine Qualifications Authority, which is the CETA for mining and skills development in that process. It's a series of engagements we have where we're setting up a collaboration agreement with them on how, as we develop the technologies here, we can ensure that the skill sets required across the entire value chain, whether it's the actual workers at the coalface, mine management, the students coming out of university, what they have been taught at university. It is a journey. As Alastair said, it's a 10 to 15-year journey with the new technologies, which gives us sufficient time to put the necessary training programs in place. At the same time, we're also working and we're setting up a collaboration agreement with the Mine Health Safety Council. So as we develop technologies here that may impact on legislation, with the Mine Health Safety Council under its mandate, it will start looking at those particular activities. So we see this collaboration. It's just not a one point or point solution that we're providing. We want to look at the entire system, right from the training at university, at technical colleges, the actual workers at the coalface, mine management, the research, the OEMs working in this space, collectively developing the solution.
The most important program within the ones that have been mentioned is the one about people. If we don't take people along with us, none of this will work. It is a very strategic intervention to first of all identify who all the stakeholders are and what those stakeholders' interests are and what their mandates are. And that includes not just the ones that we would normally think about inside the mine fence, but outside the mine fence as well. So into the communities, into the rural communities even, and understanding their needs and what modernization in the mine means to them outside the mine. And that includes the development and the support of local industrialization, local agricultural business, supported by the mining companies and the mining operations. So we start to move all the way further into the total system within which we are a part. We need to walk this journey together.
There's a lot of understandable concern from workers. To them, mechanization or modernization means loss of jobs. We are going to attempt by all means to create as many jobs. They will be higher quality jobs. A machine operator is a higher quality job than drilling the rock face. Jobs in the manufacturing cluster are higher quality. They're much nicer jobs than going underground. Also, creating jobs in these other opportunities Alastair has mentioned, the mining companies, well, some of them have come to the fore. They own a lot of land and they produce a lot of water. So projects have been identified by the Pikisa project manager for extensive and intensive farming using mine land and mine water.
It is a coalition of the willing. We have brought in people to work together on the basis and the spirit of a public-private partnership to establish this.
We have built the collaborative agreements with the universities. They are participating with us. We have brought researchers on board. We've brought other organizations on board as strategic partners. And so this whole thing is maturing and growing as we go. And as far as the research work itself is concerned, we are now very close, within 2 weeks of the end of phase 1 of the research, with the deliverables that were budgeted for, and they are in the main going to be delivered, and then we go straight into phase 2. So I think it's an important message to say things are happening, and there are demonstrable things that we can show have been done.
Solutions that we come up with will be to employ South Africans.